Hey guys, so this time I'm going to talk a little bit about some aspects I think a lot of people ignore in developing their game. You know, I fight guys who are bigger and stronger. Technique is super important, but also I see a lot of people neglect some of the other aspects. So I wanted to define what's the most important things for elevating your performance when you're fighting, right? But like if you're actually sparring or you're actually competing and you want to do better in those matches when you're fighting, what do you need to do to get to that point, right? So of course technique matters a lot. I've talked a lot about like positional sparring and like how to develop your technique in the previous videos. The other four factors after technique that are really important are strength, mobility, endurance or cardio, and your mindset. You know, and what you need to work on is different for every person. But let's say your mobility for like the butterfly stretch, right, is like you're here, like this, right? You can't push your knees down. So if you really work at this hard for like 3 or 4 weeks, you're gonna make huge gains. You can probably get all the way down to here, right? Even like a few days, you're gonna loosen up a lot. But the difference that makes when you're actually in a match is like, if I'm here, right, and someone's trying to like knee cut past me, and let's say, actually back up real quick. Let's say with the butterfly stretch, right? I can only go this far apart, right, because I'm really tight. If he starts knee cutting me here, right, I can only go this far. Drop your shin here, right? See, I can't open any more than this, right, because I don't have the mobility. But if I'm flexible, it's easy to open out to here. Now I can lasso and get myself out of the position, right? If you don't have that mobility, we have to build around it, right? So maybe we can build a game based off of not having that mobility. You can try to knee shield or play a single leg guard. We can work around that. But oftentimes I tell my students, because they're like, well, I'm not flexible, what do I do? It's like, well, what's easier? Is it easier to build an entire game around the fact that you can't touch your toes? Or is it easier to develop touching your toes, right? Because sometimes, you know, like 2 or 3 weeks of stretching, you're gonna be able to go from nothing to touching your toes, for example, right? But if you, to work around that with technique could take years to develop a whole game around not being able to do that. And it's like if you have the dedication to go to class like 3 or 4 times a week even, spar for 2 hours and go through all this hard training, right? Why not just take 3 times a week, 30 minutes a day to stretch when you can do it at your house while watching TV or playing on your computer? And have just as much of an improvement in your performance on the mat. Honestly, I tell some students that if they had an option of either 2 months of serious hard jiu-jitsu training or versus just not train for 2 months and just take their mobility really serious, of course you want to do both. But if it was one or the other, a lot of people would stand to benefit more in their performance by doing 2 months of just mobility work rather than even training jiu-jitsu. It is that important.